we ensure
Sorry.
that that we maintain the interdisciplinary spirit of our foundation's curriculum? So those particularities of our liberal arts institution, but also maintain some of the general themes of these learning outcomes and what we want students to experience and gain out of this contextual place-based learning part of the curriculum. So the institution developed course directors, and I serve as the one for Chicago Connect. And I'll say that my own discipline and my own role as a sociologist is a significant part of what I bring to seeing these courses go from an idea to a proposal and then to actual implementation. Right. So we developed this curriculum by beginning with these broad visioning sessions with our faculty, where we talked about, this is what this curriculum is about. This is what we're hoping to accomplish. Again, the general, and then moving into the particular of how different disciplines can engage in contextual learning. And we wanted to communicate at the outset that this isn't just for faculty that have historically taught courses that have some sort of place-based component or off-campus component, but rather getting every department from business to the social sciences and behavioral sciences, education, nursing, social work, the humanities, across the curriculum to think about where they might fit in this aspect of the foundation's program. From there, we moved into a proposal process, and along with developing this role of course director in kind of being the mediating person between individual faculty or departments and the committee process that we go through in approving new courses, we also viewed Chicago Connect, as well as two other aspects of our curriculum, as types of courses rather than these individual courses. And that was a way that we, from the outset, sought to maintain some common threads in how the interdisciplinary program maintained a common emphasis on those learning outcomes, as well as the what we saw as the spirit of this aspect of the curriculum. And so in moving then through the proposal process, which involved faculty taking their ideas, working with me to develop a proposal, which then went to our foundation's committee to discuss and work with and ultimately approve for the curriculum. We then moved into a stage in which the course design also took place through a collaborative process. And we were funded to do this work in the summer with the faculty who had proposed and been approved to teach the first round of courses in the curriculum. We are funded through an institutional summer grant. So we were able to meet for 3 different sessions in the summer and work together in the course design process. And I get past some of the ways in which a lot of faculty design courses somewhat on our own in isolation, and thinking about the collaborative spirit of this curriculum, how we could bring that into the design process. So the sessions that we conducted, I like to think engaged a process of developing a curricular culture. As a sociologist, I think a lot in the framework of cultures. My classrooms have cultures, our campus culture, and I think there is a distinct culture of a curriculum like this that is place-based in a particular place. And so in doing this, the first session that we held with the faculty in developing these courses was collaborative, in that in creating a collaborative kind of learning process, we wanted faculty to collaborate and bring that sharing our ideas, working together in developing our distinct courses into shaping then what became a culture of this curriculum as a collaborative learning experience. I also drew from, in our second session, some of the framework of community-based participatory research. While these are not community-based participatory courses, I brought in some of the values of CBPR about learning with the community rather than learning on, and moving beyond just one-time visits or field trips or some of that trend of academics mining from communities, rather than seeing how we can collaborate and learn together with our surrounding community. And then finally, we spent time exploring together our particular time and place, our point in history and our unique place, and how our institutional context informs these courses and their development. So I'm going to turn off my screen share here and move into some viewpoints and experiences from two of our faculty that developed courses for Chicago Connect. We'll begin with John Sebestyen talking about his Chicago Theater in Local, National, and Global Context course, and then Mark Jones from our English department and his Chicago Literature course.
Thanks, Lenore. I had taught a course twice before the development of this foundations curriculum as a topics course, connecting the study of theater to our closest geographical main metropolitan area. And Chicago has a vibrant theater scene and over 200 theater companies, and it was important to me that students on campus, regardless of their academic discipline as a major, have opportunity to learn from and explore what is on offer and how we can understand our place more fully. And when I learned of this new foundations curriculum, I was very hopeful that this previous course that had been offered as a topics course could find a home there, and I'm really grateful and glad that it has. In that course, we try to situate Chicago theater as shaped by its past, by studying history of Chicago theater as it's connected to national and global theater in contemporary ways, having the students study a wide variety of Chicago theater companies, learning their histories and their missions, the kind of material that they specialize in, the kind of programs that they initiate, and going downtown into the city at least 10 times historically over the course of the semester to experience a wide variety of styles, of productions, and a wide variety of styles of spaces, and to understand more about the neighborhoods and the richness and diversity of what how the neighborhoods that compose Chicago affect what's being done in each of those neighborhoods. So I have had them read plays written by local playwrights that have gone on to national and international profiles, and work individually to read and respond to those plays, and to write journal responses to the productions that we see, and work in groups investigating local theater companies, giving presentations to the class about those companies, helping the larger class have a better understanding of what we're going to see and experience and engage with before each of those trips into town, so that we don't become tourists or just have, I don't want the course to be like, hey, we get to just go see a bunch of fun plays and then that's it. But engage instead with neighborhood, engage instead with theme, engage instead with how the artwork that's being produced and presented in the city has something to say about the city and has something to say about the participants and the audience members. So we also study really important sociocultural considerations that are brought up by those companies and by that work, including issues of labor, emotional and physical abuse, gender disparity, the move from color blind casting to color conscious casting, and what are these kinds of choices and decisions by these theater companies have to say in ways that push theater beyond the confines of the stage and into important ways of understanding neighborhood, place, community. And I'm hopeful too that the students getting their feet on the ground in those neighborhoods can understand more about the accessibility, the walkability, and the character of those neighborhoods as removed even from the theater spaces themselves. For example, we build into the course to have a meal in each of the neighborhoods that we visit, so that we can encourage the students to not do touristy things and also be able to have some place that they know they can revisit in that neighborhood in the future. And then we invite theater makers from those neighborhoods and from those theater companies to engage with us, either in meetings or in writings. And so we're really hopeful for the future of this course. We have some uncertainties about what it will look like, in a COVID era, but we're really hopeful for the next time that will be offered. Thanks so much.
So my colleague John Sebestyen left off by wondering about a COVID semester, and I've just taught through one. And so I'd like to talk a little bit about some of the challenges that I faced teaching a Chicago literature course that's meant to engage with the city during a semester in which we couldn't get into the city. And so my course is called Chicago Literature, Poetry, Prose, Performance, and Place. If I had to give a subtitle to it this time around, it would have been Chicago from the Air. And I take that title from a documentary by Jeffrey Bear called Chicago from the Air. Jeffrey Bear has done a number of different Chicago-based documentaries. And obviously during COVID, he could not interview people in close quarters. And so structured this really thought-provoking documentary in which all of the footage was done through drone photography from the air. He appears in only one scene talking, but so much is revealed about the city from a distance that I wanted the students to see that first. And so Jeffrey Bear in that film introduces the grid from the air. The film engages with the beauty of the city. And then, as always, Bear moves into storytelling and speaks about how, there are these ghost manifestations of a ghost infrastructure that you see, railway lines that are no longer there, the lush greenery of a city of parks, but at the same time, a dramatic sort of view from the air of inequity, the tree canopy in wealthier areas as opposed to sort of the barrenness of the poorer areas. And so with that sort of grid, before the students at the beginning of the course, we moved through, and I'll try not to take too long with this, but we moved through a number of different texts that I had chosen to flesh that out and engage with it. And the first was Sister Carrie by Theodore Dreiser, a novel written in 1900 that begins with the protagonist and a young salesman coming into the city on a train. The reason I chose Sister Carrie, and this was before COVID, is that there's so many Chicago places in it. Union Station, the Wholesale District, Rector's Oyster House, Garfield Park, Windsor Dining Room, Lincoln Park, Ogden Place, Chicago Opera House, and the Elks Lodge. These locations, many of them have different names today, but I asked students in pairs to explore each of these places and to report back to the class with presentations, including visual elements, an introduction of the place and its meanings in the 19th or early 20th century, a discussion of why it's important in Sister Carrie, and finally, an update on the location as it exists today. that was really wonderful. And the students did a fine job with that. And they did it sort of remotely from the air. And that was good. The next text that we looked at was actually a science fiction short story called by James Tiptree Jr., which is the pen name of a writer named Alice B. Sheldon, originally from Hyde Park. The story is called Your Faces, Oh My Sisters, Your Faces Full of Light. And it's told from the perspective of this unnamed woman who just calls herself a sister, who is traversing the same grid, or at least part of that same grid that Jeffrey Bear introduces in his documentary. In her mind, she's in a sort of dystopian, empty landscape, but she's actually walking through the Chicago of 1976. Very, very powerful way of thinking about inequity, both in terms of class, but also in terms of gender in 1970s Chicago. And then the final work that I had them read before the midterm was Sandra Cisneros' The House on Mango Street. I should mention that I was aware throughout, many of the students in the course were nursing students who were on campus, but extraordinarily scheduled. But one student at least was tuning in from New Mexico and learning about literature and place from New Mexico. And so as I began to teach The House on Mango Street, I had them do some reading about the Pilsen neighborhood, and I had them watch a short film about that. And then I prepared two lectures on the novel. One was a sort of conventional lecture with PowerPoint slides and the way that I did many of the talks that semester. But the second one, I devised as a sort of walking tour, so no visuals whatsoever, and it was nice weather here in the city. So I told them to put on their headphones and go for a walk in their own neighborhood. And as I talked about Pilsen as it's represented in The House on Mango Street, I encouraged them to think about their own communities as they listen to me talk and as they walk through their neighborhood. Okay, so I'm rapidly running out of time, so I'll go quickly here. But if I can talk for just a couple more minutes.
Okay, the next session does begin at 11 o'clock. If I'm not mistaken. So it'd be nice to have a little time for questions and answers, but if we go over a little bit, that's all right.
I'll tell you what, I'll just wrap it up, but I'm going to wrap it up by showing you a couple of books. Both of these are books that are put out by Haymarket Press. The first is A People's History of Chicago. There are 77 poems in this anthology. So the poet is Kevin Koval. 77 poems, one for each of the different of the 77 different communities in the city. And this was something that we worked through slowly throughout the course. And it was a way of introducing the Chicago history from the people's point of view, neighborhood by neighborhood. And this provided a kind of grounding structure for our course. And at the end of the course, students gave presentations from another work edited in part by Koval, the Breakbeat Poets, many of whom are Chicago area poets, whom in a non-COVID semester we might have had an opportunity to hear. We concluded the course with Lorraine Hainsbury's Raisin in the Sun, which engages dramatically the phenomenon of the expanding Black Belt, which sort of led us to a return to Chicago in the air at the end of the course. So I'll stop there, but thank you.
Thank you. So if you have questions or comments, you can use chat or you can voice them. Just another reminder, the lightning rounds begin at 11 o'clock, but you can join that at any point. Lenore, my chat has frozen. So I can't tell if anyone's left anything there. So I'll leave it to you to look through that and perhaps, oh, there we go. Anyone, there we go. So there's a question, how do you have students travel to the neighborhoods pre and during COVID? I can see my chat again.
Well, I can say, I can respond to this in a general sense, in that a lot of that is left up to the individual courses, though, and faculty, depending on what they're doing. During COVID, the traveling to neighborhoods happened in smaller groups, as Mark talked about, you know, with students in pairs, or and giving them the opportunity to travel not only in smaller groups, but also we had a system of, you know, who you're engaging with in other spaces to ensure there's not a lot of cross potential infection with COVID. But moving forward, this is something that we're looking at, options for how best to support that. But a lot of it happens through using our college vans and bringing students to and from neighborhoods.
Was basically my question of if you guys used vans, or like we just send our students on the L and tell them how to meet us someplace, usually at Columbia, but all of our students have U passes. And so I didn't know if you were doing vans and taking them to someplace, or how that worked.
Yeah, we on our campus pre-COVID, we're not within walking distance of the CTA or the Metra. We're a short drive from a Metra stop, but it would be swifter to drive into the city and then encourage the students to navigate from there. So we've often done that.
Any other questions? Well, thank you to our presenters. That was fascinating. And thank you to everyone else, and enjoy the rest of the summit today.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
everyone,
you.
for joining
Thanks
us.
for coming.